Zach lifted his beer high, grinning like he owned the night. "To Michelle, our family's paper pilot," he shouted. Laughter broke out around the table. Every face turned toward me, amused, proud of the joke. They didn't smell the smoke that clings to you after a mission. They'd never heard the desperate shouts when a chopper goes down. And they certainly didn't know who Revenant One was. I smiled anyway. Silence was safer than truth. That night, as their laughter echoed through the yard, I made myself a promise. Next time they mocked me, I wouldn't stay quiet. My name is Michelle Butler. That was the last summer anyone mistook my silence for weakness. The laughter drifted across the backyard, warm and familiar, the kind that should have felt comforting. But that night, every chuckle hit like a nail driven deeper. Zach was holding court again, bragging about real military discipline and toughness. His words hung thick in the air, choking every breath of pride I had left. No one looked my way. They didn't have to. Everyone thought they already knew who I was. I sat there, gripping my beer, the metal cold enough to burn my palm, bending slightly under my hand. And still, no one noticed. Maybe they'd forgotten I was even there. Maybe that was easier. The Butlers were a family of noise, big stories, loud pride, no space for quiet ones like me. And for years, silence had been my safest armor. When Zach raised his drink toward his father, Captain Roland Butler, pride lit up the old man's face. Father and son, mirror images of confidence and noise. For a second, I wondered if there was ever room in this family for someone who didn't need applause to feel worthy. The ocean salt reached me before I realized I'd walked to the beach. The laughter faded, replaced by the steady crash of waves. Barefoot, water curling around my ankles, I whispered a quiet vow. One day, the silence that kept me invisible would end. Not with rage, with truth. I grew up by this coast where people believed three things held a family together: stay quiet, work hard, never cross the line. I'd already broken all three by the time I turned 25. In our town, my Uncle Roland's name meant strength and medals. His son Zach was the heir to that legend. And me? The girl who flew planes? The polite afterthought in their stories. They loved talking about heroes, just not to the one sitting at their table. I let them, because my truth was stamped classified. But some nights, the memories crept in like the tide. The cockpit bathed in red light. Radio crackling, "We're pinned down. Revenant One, do you copy?" My own voice steady. "Copy. I'm not leaving you behind." Weeks later, my commanding officer told me quietly, "Captain Roland Butler owes you his men's lives. He knows it was you." I froze. So that was it. The family legend he built was once under my wing. He knew. And he stayed silent. Maybe to protect his myth, maybe his pride. But I paid the cost. That evening, sitting with my father as the sun dipped low, he said softly, "Some people get applause. Others get the sound of engines." His words meant he saw me, but the quiet no longer comforted me. It pressed down like salt in an open wound. If Roland wanted silence, I'd choose the opposite. That night, the moon hung high when I walked to the beach again. Roland stood there, beer in hand, eyes on the horizon. Without turning, he said, "Thank you, Michelle. I know you were Revenant One." The words hit like a flare, bright, then gone. "I just did my job," I said. "You could have said something," he murmured. "I didn't want Zach to feel small." "Then you made me smaller instead." He didn't argue, just nodded, still watching the waves. "You're right," he said. "My team still owes you. In the service, we don't say thank you out loud. We just remember." I studied him in the moonlight. Not cruel, just trapped in the kind of thinking where words were weakness and silence was strength.
but that silence had suffocated the rest of us.
Keep your silence if it helps you sleep, I said quietly, but next time someone laughs at me, I won't stay quiet. Roland finally looked at me, his face softening. Good, he said. You've earned the right. The waves reached our feet, silver with moonlight. In that light, everything became clear. The thin line between pride and love, loyalty and fear. I turned toward the house, the faint laughter behind me, and knew that would be the last summer my silence protected anyone but me. 2 years later, I came home different. The same songs, same smoke, same people, only I had changed. Zach was at the grill, performing again. He raised his beer, grinning. Welcome home, Captain Butler. Heard the Navy's keeping you busy with memos. Laughter again, sharp as static. I smiled and said, calm but cutting. Depends on the altitude. The noise fell silent. Even the wind paused. Roland looked up, pride and warning in his eyes. They went back to bragging about Zach's gym, his training, his discipline. No one asked about me. Then Sergeant Mason Hale, one of Roland's old SEAL buddies, clapped his shoulder. Remember that pilot who saved your team off Mogadishu? What was her call sign again? Roland hesitated. Revenant 1. Hell of a pilot. The words hit me hard, like a confession. No one else noticed, but his silence finally carried guilt, not arrogance. Zach, still clueless, laughed. At least that pilot had guts. Some folks only fly simulators. I set my drink down. Some of us fly where there are no do-overs. The words sliced through the air. I stood up and walked toward the beach again. Roland's gaze followed me. That night, the storm wasn't in the sky. It was sitting at that table. Fireworks cracked over the water as Zach showed off his routines, all bravado and noise. Inside, my mother stirred lemonade. Roland's son is doing so well, she said. You flying those planes is nice too, honey. Just so dangerous. I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. Outside, Zach called out, Hey, Michelle, maybe next year you'll join us for real military training. Laughter again. Even Roland stayed quiet. Then little Evan, Zach's son, asked, Dad, isn't Aunt Michelle in the military too? Silence. Zach forced a laugh. Well, not that kind of military. I knelt to Evan's level and maybe one day you'll understand what real means. His innocent nod hit harder than any insult. Later that night, I found Roland alone at the table. You know this isn't harmless, right? I said. He nodded, but I just don't want to turn this house into a battlefield. Well, your silence already did, I answered. It made Zach believe he's untouchable. He looked at me, weary but steady. Maybe it's time someone else fired the first shot. Fireworks cracked outside, smoke curling against the glass. In the reflection, I saw myself, not small, not quiet anymore. Ready. The next time they laughed, I'd let the truth explode. 3 years later, I came home again. Florida air thick with salt and heat. Roland's 60th birthday was a full-blown event. SEAL brothers, neighbors, everyone gathered. Zach, center stage as always, spotted me. Michelle's back. Hey, Commander. Still flying a desk, huh? Laughter rippled. I set my glass down. Still flying, Zach, just not as low as you think. The laughter died instantly. Roland's eyes narrowed, part warning, part pride. A drunk SEAL chimed in. You military too, sweetheart? What's your call sign? Zach smirked. Yeah, let's hear it. Maybe paper wings? I looked around at all their faces, waiting for me to play along. "Revenant One," I said. Silence. A veteran spoke up. "Wait, you were the pilot in Mogadishu?" Roland stood, voice sharp with command. "Zach, apologize." Zach blinked. "Dad, it was just a joke." "Apologize," Roland said again, louder, "for mocking the pilot who saved my men." Color drained from Zach's face. "You mean her?" Roland nodded. "She flew through fire so we could come home, and you laughed." Zach whispered, "I didn't know." "I know," I said quietly. "But now you do." Roland met my eyes, shame and pride tangled together. He reached into his pocket and pressed a brass coin into my palm. "To the one who flew through fire. You earned this long ago." Fireworks lit the sky as silence filled the yard. Later, I drove along the coast, windows down, the coin catching the headlights. I didn't feel angry, only clean. Roland's truck pulled in behind me. He walked toward the water. Not the captain now, just a man. "You shouldn't have had to wait for me to speak," he said. "But you did," I replied. He handed me a folded report, Operation Revenant. My name blacked out under lines of ink. They classified it, but we never forgot. He took a breath. "I thought silence would protect you. I was wrong. It only protected my ego and Zach's." He pulled another coin from his pocket. Old, worn. "This one's from my team. We kept it for the day we could thank you right." I held both coins, gold in the moonlight. "We're good, Captain. Just don't stay silent again." He nodded. No more silence. When I turned to go, he added softly, "Zach's not angry at you. He's angry at himself for not earning what you did. Then maybe it's time he learns how to earn something real." The wind shifted, cool and clean. I closed my hand around both coins. No more silence. 3 years later, I stood on the runway at Pensacola, sunlight flashing on metals and brass. I'd been called to receive the Navy Commendation for outstanding service. This time, it wasn't secret. Cameras ready, the band steady. And then I saw him, Roland, in his old uniform, ribbons faded but straight-backed and proud. When the applause faded, he walked up, holding a worn seal cap. "You make the uniform look better than any of us ever did," he said. I smiled. "Don't exaggerate, Captain." Then he saluted. The crowd went still. A few veterans followed, heads bowed. I returned the salute. 10 years late, but finally real. Afterward, he handed me a faded photo, him as a young officer beside a pilot whose face was lost to sunlight. "Never got her name," he murmured. "Now I know why." That night, my phone buzzed. Saw the video. "Proud of you." From Zach. Short, honest, enough. I looked at the coin, light blurring in my eyes, not from pain, but peace. A year later, summer returned softer. The Butler backyard was quiet now. No boasting, no mocking laughter. Just the hum of the grill, the rustle of leaves, and kids running through grass. Zach had changed. He worked with Veterans Outreach now, helping others find their footing. When I walked in, the conversation paused. I wore a simple uniform. No medals, just service. A year later, summer returned softer. The Butler backyard was quiet now, No boasting, no mocking laughter. Just the hum of the grill, the rustle of leaves, and kids running through grass. Zach had changed. He worked with Veterans Outreach now, helping others find their footing. When I walked in, the conversation paused. I wore a simple uniform, no medals, just service. He smiled. Dad says bravery runs in the Butler blood. No, I said, it runs in choice. The screen door creaked. Roland stepped out, older now, cane in hand, voice warm as gravel. You made this family understand what service really means. I laughed softly. Took a few barbecues to do it. He chuckled, the sound blending with the hum of cicadas. Overhead, jets roared. T-45 slicing the sky in perfect formation. Their sunlight reflected on the coin in Evan's hand, bathing the porch in gold. I looked at the boy, then the man who'd once been my commander. The ones who matter already know, I whispered. The rest will catch up. The jets vanished into blue. Roland leaned back, eyes half closed. Evan stood straight, the coin gleaming in his palm. Honor lived on, not in medals or speeches, but in the quiet truth that after every storm, the sky still belonged to us. Zach rose and smiled, not to perform, but to honor. Everyone meet Commander Butler, the pilot who brought my father home. Applause rippled through the table. Roland's eyes shone with quiet pride. My mother whispered, "Finally, people know who you are." "That's not why I came," I said. Evan, now 6, full of wonder, ran over. "Dad says you flew through storms to save people." I knelt and smiled. "I just didn't leave them behind." Roland's composure broke. His shoulders trembled, tears falling freely. Zach's voice cracked. "I should have known better." "Now you do," I said, smiling not with pride, but release. As the sky turned gold, Roland approached the porch. He held out the old seal coin. "This always belonged to you." I looked at Evan. "Keep it," I told Roland. "Let him see it every day. Let him know what it means." Roland nodded and placed the coin in the boy's hand. Sunlight hit the metal, scattering light through the trees. For a moment, everything felt whole. Laughter, quiet, and all the years between. Zach looked at me. "Guess we both found what we were looking for." "Respect?" I asked. "Peace," he said. The evening settled warm around us. This silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was earned. 12 years later, I drove down the same coastal road back to Jacksonville. The old Butler house still stood, paint faded, porch lined with photos. Roland in uniform, Zach with veterans, Evan grinning. And in the middle, me in flight gear, sunlight catching my helmet. Below it, a small frame read, "Revenants 1, Family of the Brave." Inside, Evan, now 18, tall and calm, was polishing the glass that held the coin. "Auntie Michelle," he asked, "were you scared that night?" "Yes," I said, "but courage isn't about not being scared. It's about flying anyway."